whose fault is it that the Phillies are such a bad defensive team? As he joins us now here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. What's going on, Frank?
Not much. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing good. I watched that game last night, and a lot of people discussing should Wheeler have been pulled from the game. I, for one, have been critical of Girardi for pulling his starters to go to a lousy bullpen in the past. So typically I'm okay with what he did. And last night I'm in the same boat. Could he have pulled him? Sure. But to me, he should have never been in that situation. Defensively, they're so bad that game was in that situation. So why are they – first of all, did you have a problem with Girardi pulling Wheeler last night?
See, not necessarily. He only had, 89 pitches at the time? And you know what? I feel like if he had gone to the bullpen and the bullpen imploded and cost them that game, I think that the people would be – the same people might be upset today saying, well, why did he take out Zach Wheeler? He only had 89 pitches. So, if that's your ace, I almost feel like you need to give your ace the chance to finish his own game. The problem was, here's the problem, though. It was a tie game. So whether he stayed in or not, that game was not going to end with Zach Wheeler on the mound, probably, unless he held them off and then they won in the bottom of the ninth. But I'm still kind of in the middle. And then some people said, well, after the first batter gets on, then maybe you let him. But he's thrown a lot of double plays. So, and then two are on, and at that point, 2 outs, you feel like, well, maybe he can pull through. So I'm kind of split on this. I don't have a strong opinion about this one way or the other.
Well, I don't either so much. Like, who's he going to in that spot? Is he going to Kennedy? Is he going to Neris? Because if he goes to Neris, people are going to complain, right?
I think he was going to go to Kennedy. I mean, you go to your closer in the top of the ninth in a tie game. That's kind of a common thing to do in baseball. So if he and Kennedy came in and, like I said, gave up a run, then you might be hearing all kinds of things about Girardi anyway. So it's almost like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
In that situation, yeah. So what about defensively? In your opinion, who takes the blame as to why this is such a bad defensive team?
Matt Klentak, I suppose.
Poor Matt Klentak's not here to defend himself. He doesn't even have a job already.
But really, this got set up by previous decisions, right? So Alec Boehm, when he came up, kind of the strategy was, okay, small sample size in 2020, he was okay. You think you're going to get through a good year, or at least a passable year in 2021. They made that mistake with Rhys Hoskins, right? They had a small sample size in left field. They thought, okay, Rhys Hoskins can play left field, and then he was a complete butcher out there. So, and then, of course, Dombrowski,
he might be better in left than he is at first.
Yeah.
Something happened with your mic there, Frank, so we lost you. See if we can't maybe get you to reconnect that thing there. No, we don't got you there at all. You are completely out. But, yeah, you're right. They use Hoskins in left field, and it's something that I wonder if down the road, if you kind of talked about this before, if they can use Boehm in left field, is he going to be just as bad as Hoskins was in left field? But I asked Frank, why are they so bad defensively? Who do you blame? He went to Klentak as the reason why. Now, if we can get Frank to kind of get him reconnected here.
You hear me all right?
I got you. Okay. Yeah, Frank has a backup mic ready to go at his house.
So where were we? So Dombrowski really wanted to upgrade shortstop defensively, and to do so, he was looking at Andrelton Simmons over Didi Gregorius, and Didi was kind of the one available fallback. And you know what? I thought that, well, one, if he had signed Simmons, this would have been a tough year for Simmons as well. But if Didi didn't get that pseudo gout, I think that really has affected his play. And I don't know that you could have foreseen that would happen to Didi. Didi's usually better than this. I think it's very clear when Didi is not feeling well. He's not the same player. And when he's on, he's on. And so, unfortunately for the Phillies, they have Didi, who's a little banged up. But really, I mean, in terms of decisions that Dombrowski made, I mean, that was really the only decision that kind of affected the makeup of this team defensively.
Right. So you have Hoskins at first. I mean, last night, let's get your opinion on that. Those are plays that big league first basemen have to make, right? I mean, I know they went out of their way on that broadcast to talk about, oh, he's hurt, the groin. Those balls have to be fielded.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because this is not going to solve itself. It looks like it seems like whatever Hoskins is dealing with is going to be here to stay for a while. He's not going to play every day, and that's problematic in a lot of ways because you need his bat, and you're just going to have to suck it up and deal with that defense. Unfortunately, I think because from what I mean, we also, as we were just saying, Hoskins was never that strong a defensive first baseman to begin with, but he can't stretch. Like this, like it just looks painful. I feel the pain watching Hoskins play first base, and that makes me think that what this is not going to be a quick solution. He's not going to heal fast, and the problem is you don't really have a lot of offensive slash defensive options to make up for him at this point. I mean that's a problem with the trade deadline being July 31st. You can't make any more trades for anybody on anybody else's 40-man roster.
Let's ask this question then. Could they? I mean, I know Bohm's a butcher over there, but is he a better option to go play first base with his bat and hopefully he gets hot and let Hoskins just be a right-handed bat off the bench for a little while here?
I think you got to play him when you can. He's if he can give you anything, like you saw, he's hit 3 home runs since he came back off the injured list. Hasn't been able to really field the position. Unfortunately, they're not playing road games that are interleague games, so they have a designated hitter. But I don't know. I don't feel a lot better with Alec Bohm at first base either. You're going to get the same defense, I think, if you have a healthy Alec Bohm or an injured Rhys Hoskins. So I mean, this is just a really, really tough situation. I mean, if I'm the Phillies, I'm looking at the waiver wire. I'm trying to see what's out there. Do a little bit of shopping off of somebody else's AAA team, someone who's not on a 40-man roster. In fact, there's somebody I was kind of eyeing yesterday. His name is Aderlin Rodriguez. He's a AAA first baseman, 29 years old, isn't on any prospect lists. But so far this season, he has 23 home runs, is batting .302, and an OPS of .968. So do you take a shot on somebody like that who can maybe supplement at first base a little bit? That really takes some creativity because, again, you can't trade for a player that's on a 40-man roster. So maybe go look around what's not on a 40-man. I mean, when the Phillies got Brad Miller originally, they found him in the minor leagues for the Yankees. That's how they traded for him. So you might have to try to do something like that and something out of the box and creative because I think this Phillies team needs some help.
Well, I mean, it's evident you can't play Hoskins every single day, and you can't play Brad Miller every single day, so they're going to have to come up with another idea here, and maybe you just use Hoskins as a right-handed bat off the bench and save him for that one moment in the game. That foul ball, that pop-up in foul territory, that ball has to be caught by an 11-year-old.
Yeah, too many outs are just ruining these starting pitchers. I mean, as many good starts the Phillies have had from starting pitchers, they've really could have gone so much further without these outs. Again, the Nola almost complete game. They gave away outs for that. They gave away outs with Suarez on the mound. They're giving away outs here. So it just can't happen if you're going to compete.
Yeah, and Frank, I was talking about this right before you came on. Baseball defense is something that is never discussed. Like in football, you say, that's a good defense, man. That's a really good defense. In basketball, the Brooklyn Nets, they don't play any defense. Oh, the Sixers, they have a good defense. No one talks about baseball defense. But you saw the difference last night between a good defensive team and a bad defensive team and what it meant in that game and what it's meant in this series and what it's meant for this season.
Many, many games you could say that. In fact, I think some of Zach Eflin's worst starts were games that the defense let him down and that just kind of led to other things down the way. So Zach Eflin's coming back today. He's somebody that relies on defense. And I'd be interested to see how they're going to set up the defense. I mean, Freddie Galvis makes an error on his first ball. They get him for his defense. But
and that one, by the way, I didn't even think Hoskins, if he was healthy, could have helped them out on that. That ball kind of pulled him so far off.
Yeah, unfortunately, that was the case. But you know what? You're going to have to play your best possible defense. You probably have to play a lot of Galvis and Torreyes on the left side. And on the right, I guess Miller is your best defensive option. And unfortunately, when Brad Miller starts and plays a lot, he doesn't hit as well as he does when he is coming off the bench.
Yeah, well, and let's say, they decide, look, we need a right-handed first baseman. They don't really – Galvis has been playing some first base, I guess, in some of the warm-up. They've been having him with the first baseman on, correct?
Correct, but he was even told to be ready to play some first base, and I I, I don't know. If he's going to be in the game, I'd rather him be someplace that's a more challenging position.
Right. I was going to say, it's not like they have that Jay Bruce type of corner outfielder hanging around that could play some first base. So really your option would be either Galvis or I guess bringing Bohm back and sending Williams back down to the minors, which would hamstring you with an extra outfielder.
Yeah, there's really no good solution right now, and that's a shame of this year.
All right, Frank, over at 97.3 ESPN.com. And by the way, I don't know that they'll bring Bohm back up. I don't know that that's even an option, but it's just something that I was kind of thinking about last night watching the game. Like, I get it. He's not very good over there either, but at least he catches, well, you hope he catches that pop-up and keeps the ball in the infield. 4 plays last night, I thought Hoskins really hurt them, so I don't know how much more they can go to them. You wrote over at 97.3 ESPN that perhaps Dombrowski is just getting started, shaking up the Phillies. So what could be next?
Well, I think he's going to do with the roster what he just did with the front office. And we had just said, like on the air, an hour before we found out that Josh Bonifay was being let go or from his position as director of player development, that he was let go. So it sounds like Dombrowski's willing to not worry about hurt feelings, not worried about if the person got a legitimate chance, because Bonifay only had really 2 seasons to develop players. He looks like he's going to be bold, and I have no reason to expect that he's not going to be equally bold with how this roster is put together. Because let's face it, when you join an organization December 11th, a lot of the decisions on that roster have already been made, and a lot of decisions around baseball have already been made. So you lost out on the ability to make any real change this past off season. And so I think you're going to see a very, very different team next year. He's watching what we're all watching. And if there's no DH to put Hoskins or Bohm, I wouldn't be shocked if he moves either or both of them. I think what we're talking about right now about defense is going to really change his approach next offseason. And I think it could come in a very big way.
I tweeted this out earlier, and it's not like, earth-shattering, but the contracts of Harper and Real Muto would not be desirable to another team, correct?
I think that's fair to say.
With that, the only desirable guy goes back to Hoskins, right? And so if they really want to shake this thing up, Hoskins, Nola, those 2 guys would be the 2 biggest possibilities of getting moved in the offseason if Dombrowski does what you're suggesting.
I think they're very much in play to be traded. I mean, even Nola, he's getting close to the end of that deal he signed for a team that's contending or perhaps doesn't have a big payroll. I think he's reasonably priced for next year. I think teams would love to have him and might give up some prospects for him. Now, then the Phillies would have to replace him somehow, but that could be part of other deals that he makes. So I think it's important to give this a different look. Hey, look at Chuck Fletcher with the Flyers. What did he say after he made all those trades, right? He said, look, the guys we had weren't doing it, so we got to try something else.
Well, the Phillies have essentially become somewhat of a version of the Flyers. Not quite as long with Voracek and Giroux and Couturier, who had all been there for multiple, but you're starting to get to that point where these guys are now going on 3 seasons. The Hoskins, the Harper, the Real Muto, the Segura, the Didi, the McCutchen. These guys have been playing like 3 years together and have proven to be nothing more than a 500 team.
That's absolutely correct. And you know what? You can't fall in love with your own players and want to keep them around because you like them. I mean, sometimes you got to shake it up. Sometimes you have to make trades that you don't like making. Sometimes you're going to say goodbye to players that you don't want to say goodbye to. But at the end of the day, this is a results-oriented business, and you got to win. So I can see the Phillies really shaking things up here with Dombrowski at the helm. And I think it's very, very clear from these moves we saw this week that he has full backing of ownership to do whatever he thinks is necessary. And I totally expect him to do so.
Frank Klose covers the Phillies, 97.3 ESPN.com. In your mind, how imperative is this 4-game set with Arizona? I mean, are we starting to get – I joke all the time, Mike McGarry writes his column called Must Win, which kind of came from us having Twitter battles about him saying that, these are must-win games. He was saying it in like June a couple of years ago. There's no must-win games in June. Are these must-win games against Arizona?
Yes, I think that the Braves, they won those 9 games in a row because they beat up on the bad teams that they're supposed to beat. Now, the Phillies didn't beat up on Arizona in Arizona, but they're at home. They have nothing to blame but themselves if they don't take advantage of these here, because that's how they're going to catch up to the Braves. As well, the Braves are playing San Francisco, the Braves are playing Los Angeles. The Phillies take care of business against the bad teams. They got to be within striking distance before they face the Braves at the end of the month of September. So this is the time you do it. You win these games against Arizona. You win these games, upcoming games against the likes of Baltimore and the Nationals. Phillies have to win these games, period.
They got Pittsburgh coming up as well. Baltimore, Pittsburgh. They have a 7-game set with those guys before they play the Braves. So some would say, hey, you have a chance to make up some ground right before you play Atlanta. But these games here, the Arizonas, Washington, Miami, these are, I say, out of 10. You got to win almost 8 out of 10 of these games.
Hey, the Braves won 9 out of 9 when they had a similar stretch recently, and that's what propelled the Braves to be where they are. That and the Phillies losing those games to the Diamondbacks. So now that the schedule is turning a little bit towards the Phillies, now Joe Girardi will tell you he doesn't want to hear about the schedule, because at the end of the day, you need to win these games. The Phillies need to win these games. They need to win those games against the Cubs, Orioles, Pirates, Rockies. Like they've got a lot of teams there that they on paper should be beating, and the Phillies have to win these games if they're going to win the NL East. And if they don't, they have no one to blame but themselves.
Yeah. Zach Eflin goes tonight. Hey, we talked about this the other day, but if you look at the pitching coming up here, you've got a very favorable group of pitchers that all 5 days, Frank, you feel pretty. There's no Matt Moore. There's no Chase Anderson. There's no Vince Velasquez. All 5 guys you feel pretty good about rolling out over the last month of the season here.
Definitely. The one thing, though, is like when Ranger Suarez joined the rotation, Zach Eflin's probably going to have to grow into it a little bit. The Phillies did not give him a long rehab assignment because, let's face it, they need him. So I wouldn't expect Eflin to go too deep today, but he's got to build back up. So the bullpen behind him better be ready today. Luckily, they didn't really pitch yesterday.
All right, Frank Klose. Brogdon got the call in the 9th last night. He was the guy who came in to follow up Zach Wheeler. By the way, was that ball fair or foul?
I think it could have been fair.
All right. You're allowed to be truthful.
Could have. Yeah.
It's okay. All right, Frank Klose, 97.3 ESPN.com. Check out his story right now on our website. He says perhaps Dombrowski is just getting started shaking up the Phillies. Read more about it at 97.3 ESPN.com. Follow him on Twitter at Frank Klose with a K. All right, Frank, take care, pal.
Thanks, Mike. Always good to talk to you.
Yeah, man. And Frank gets the backup mic going right on the fly there.